The Gree, whose name meant people of goodwill in their native language, were a cephalopoid species native to the planet Gree in the Outer Rim. They had lumpy bodies with skin colors that ranged from gray to green, large heads with big, sagging mantles in the back and black eyes, and 3 pairs of tentacles. 2 pairs of tentacles were used as arms or fine manipulators, and the rest were used for locomotion.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do a locomotion.
The Gree were the first to invent interplanetary travel in the form of the hypergates, special portals that used hyperspace to connect planets across the galaxy. The hypergates would later be outmatched by the infinity gates invented by the Quoth, at least in terms of sheer power, but they were still instrumental to the development of the early galaxy. Using their hypergates, the Gree transported goods, flora, fauna, and technology to different planets instantaneously. They also allowed others to travel through the hypergates, which enabled the various peoples of the galaxy to visit one another and plant the seeds of the first pan-galactic civilization. The Gree had good relations with their fellow ancient races, but their closest friendship was with the Quoth. Tragically, that friendship would sour after the Quoth made a deal with Telatni. The Gree were the first to turn their backs on the Quoth and brand them traitors, not realizing that the Quoth had been tricked. I've already done a video on the Quoth/Qua, so check that one out to learn more about them. Throughout a series of galaxy-spanning, interdimensional, millennia-long conflicts called the Cosmic Wars, which were fought between the inhabitants of the galaxy and the evil forces of Ilathurion, also known as Other Space, the Gree were active participants. In the first conflict, the Empyrean Wars, they defended their enclave from invaders and gave aid to human refugees from the planet Pax, who had been nearly exterminated by the winged, reptilian Alashanians, who I'll be doing a video about later. During the second conflict, the War of the Temporal Planes, the Gree's hypergates were nearly destroyed by the Firstborn Council, who feared that the dreaded abomination Typhagem would use them to bring more evil beings into the galaxy. The Gree were furious and thought it was unfair for their gates to be destroyed instead of the Qua's infinity gates. Although the hypergates were ultimately spared, the mere idea of destroying them had only made the Gree more resentful towards the Qua. During the third conflict, the Twilight Wars, the Qua unintentionally unleashed the Rakata upon the galaxy, and the Gree decided they'd had enough. They declared war on the Qua, not realizing or caring that the Rakata had deceived the Qua. It was only after the Qua, decimated by the Rakata and hated by their former friends, retreated to Dathomir and devolved into the Qui, that the Gree realized their error, and were deeply saddened. When the Thoyor ships, which both the Gree and the Qua had helped build, landed on Tython, the Gree attended the arrival ceremony and brought several elder Qui with them, which was the closest they would ever get to reconciling. After the Cosmic Wars ended, the Gree became isolationists, confining themselves to the 6 planets that made up their enclave: Gree, Asation, Licha N, Lanatro, Malinos, and T-Hasa. Apart from helping build the lower levels of Coruscant and working with the Galactic Republic and the Sith Empire to stop a being called Loteka, they didn't do much following the invention of the hyperdrive. In subsequent centuries, Gree society, which had once been fair and equal, became increasingly hierarchical. The 4 divisions of Gree society, crafters, researchers, operators, and administrators, became castes, with the operators being the highest. Eventually, the operators decided to stop passing down their knowledge and shut down the hypergates. This eliminated the need for crafters and researchers altogether, and set the Gree on the path towards socio-cultural stagnation. By the time of the Clone Wars, the Gree were a shadow of their former selves. They were still highly intelligent, but they had lost the knowledge of their forefathers. They wandered among the remains of their ancestral technology, completely unable to use it, but they still protected it from thieves, collectors, and others who wanted to pilfer it. There were a few in the Galactic Republic who knew of the Gree, including Count Dooku, whose Geonosian solar sailor incorporated Gree equipment, and a clone commander who named himself after them. But for the most part, they were a byword, a relic of a long-forgotten time in galactic history. By the time of the Galactic Empire, they were still around, but they kept to themselves, and the Galactic Empire had very little presence in the Gree Enclave. The Gree first appeared in The Gree Enclave, an article written by Timothy O'Brien and illustrated by Chris Gossett, and published in the 8th issue of Star Wars Adventure Journal, which came out in November of 1995. They received a few mentions in Star Wars media after that, before finally appearing as characters in the 2011 MMO Star Wars The Old Republic. There are a few discrepancies in the appearance of the Gree. Chris Gossett's original illustrations of them depict them with fat, bumpy bodies, akin to the textured skin of a real octopus, and small, glaring eyes. In the Old Republic, however, they are smoother, though that could be chalked up to graphical limitations, with much bigger eyes and head tendrils that the Gossett designs did not have. For my illustration, I chose to merge the two designs, keeping the fat, lumpy look of the original Gossett designs while adding the big eyes and head tendrils of the Old Republic designs. Here's my illustration of the Gree emerging from their hypergates on an uncharted planet. For this drawing, I wanted to experiment a little bit, so I used perspective and landscape orientation. It looks a little bit different from the ones I've done before, but I'm still proud of it. I hope you all like it too. As always, this is Jonathan, signing off. Peace out, may the Force be with you.